Now that a man is in a relationship, what could stand out is that he is emotionally shut down. And the reason why this will stand out can be because his partner wants him to express how he feels, and he is simply unable to do so. And so up until this point, this would have just been what was normal, and so it wouldn't have stood out. And of course, this doesn't mean that you won't be able to experience any emotions, but what it is likely to mean is that you won't be able to be in touch with how he feels deep down, and for this connection to be normal, so he can feel anger and frustration, maybe even down from time to time, but he won't be able to deeply connect with how he feels and to express all of his feelings. And at this point, he could believe that there is something wrong with him, and he could even believe that he was born this way. Or he could go the other way and believe that there is something wrong with their relationship, and so he could believe that if he was to meet someone else, he would be able to feel things for her. But if he has been in this position before, then he could see that there's something going on for him, because he will be the common denominator, and that no matter who he is with, the same thing is likely to take place. And so if he has been this way for as long as he can remember, it is unlikely that he was simply born this way. Most likely there would have been a time very early on, when he was born perhaps, when he was completely in touch with his feelings. And this is because very early on, he would have been, and he still is of course, an emotional being. He wouldn't have had this intellect there, so now that he's an adult, he might mainly be in his head and be in touch with his thoughts and what's going on at that level, the mental level, but what is going on at an emotional level won't be normal. But when he was born and right in the beginning of his life, he would have very much been an emotional being. And the reason why he ended up losing touch with his emotional self, so his body, can be due to what took place very early on. So his mother may have seen him as an extension of herself and used him to fulfill some of her unmet adult and childhood needs. And so she wouldn't have been able to see him as an individual and to attune to his needs. And in order to survive, he would have learned very early on that he had to focus on his mother's needs, because if he expressed his needs, he may have been punished, disapproved of, and or abandoned. So he had to lose touch with his true self and to create a false self that would allow him to please his mother. And not having his needs met would have been deeply painful, would have greatly traumatized him. And having a mother who, through being out of touch with him and perhaps lacking empathy, would have given him attention when he didn't want it. And she would have mainly have done this perhaps for her. And so through experiencing this pain of not having his needs met and receiving attention when he didn't want it, which would have been overstimulating, he would have had to have shut down. This would have been the only option for him to handle the arousal that he was in, because he couldn't speak up and say, Mum, stop doing this is painful. And he wouldn't have been able to run away either, because he was in this vulnerable, dependent state. And so shutting down from his body, losing touch, becoming estranged from himself, would have been the only way for him to survive. And so what would have allowed him to survive very early on, now that he's an adult, will be causing him problems. But although many years will have passed, he is still likely to carry all this arousal, all this trauma in his body and in his nervous system. And so it won't matter that what took place is over, because he will still be overloaded with all this trauma. And so in order for him to be able to open up and to express how he feels in a relationship and in life in general, he will need to work through this baggage that he is carrying in his body and mind, because until this takes place, it will be too maxed out to be an integrated human being. So if you can relate to this and you can see that you are often in an emotionally shut down state, then it will be essential for you to reach out, perhaps for the assistance of a therapist or a healer, so that you can be a whole human being, because you're not here to be a half human being. You are here to completely embrace life, and you can't do this if you're not in touch with your body, because to the degree that you can embrace your own body will be to the degree that you can embrace life. So please reach out for the assistance that you need to gradually transform your life.